this all on my own. No, I know I'm no Superman. I'm no Superman.
Hello friends, I'm the Dyslexic Cosplayer, and it's time we take a look at Misfits, our first new series now that I've got my new setup going. Misfits is an interesting British take on the superhero trope genre that I originally heard about from the YouTuber Welshie. After checking it out, I fell in love with it, and so I've decided to review it on my show to help spread the word, because it's really good. Let's get on to episode 1. Our main cast are a group of youth offenders who are serving their community service sentences. However, one day, a strange storm arrives, and we're talking beach ball-sized hail strange, and they're all struck by lightning. Over the next couple of days, they realize that each of them has gained a superpower as a result. Unfortunately, their probation worker has also gained super rage and attempts to murder them. With their powers combined, they're able to save themselves, game-ending their probation worker in the process. Knowing no one will believe their self-defense story, they decide to bury the bodies and keep it all a secret, especially from their new probation worker. But with a little bit of luck, the rest of their community service will be completely uneventful. But astutely realizing if the storm gave them superpowers, how many other superpowered individuals could there be out there? So getting into something resembling a thesis of the series, I think it's probably best summed up by one of the first lines in the episode.
You know, people out there, they think you're scum. You have an opportunity to show them they're wrong.
Yeah, but what if they're right?
I have to say that is one of the most brutally honest takes on what it is like to be a teenager. Not the best take that the series gives us, that's saved for the finale, but it does get at the heart of what it's like to be a teenager. Always expected to be an adult while everyone treats you like a child and never feeling like you have both feet in either world. It's one thing I think the Spider-Man comics really embody very well. Peter's occasional naivete and unwillingness to compromise his morals while still being a great superhero. Another thing I think the writers excelled at was coming up with creative and interesting superpowers. Now, some of them are generic, but one really cool thing is each person's superpower relates to how they got it and why they have it in a very deeply personal way that's compelling throughout. So what I'm going to do from here on out is each episode I'm going to talk about one of our main protagonist superpowers, as well as talking about the antagonist of the episode superpower, to try and stop it from getting too silly, as well as part of being a deeper dive on each episode. The character Kaylee Bailey is a beautiful example of this. Used to being looked down on for her very pronounced accent.
What makes you think that you're better than us?
What is that accent?
Is that for real?
What, you trying to say something now then, yeah?
Couple that with coming from a less than well-to-do family background, it's left her with perpetual inability to trust what people are saying to her face as opposed to what they think about her. A trait which led her and another female friend to have a physical altercation violent enough that she was arrested and placed under house arrest, doing community service in the process. But as a result of that, she gains the gift of telepathy, able to read people's minds, with occasionally hilarious results.
That's my little baby Keefy.
You dirty bitch. I've been licking my bullets.
Making her superpower a double-edged sword. Yes, she's able to know exactly what everyone thinks behind her back, but as a result of not being able to turn her power off, it often means that she's getting very emotionally driven thoughts rather than what people actually think, separate from their internal monologue. But in spite of that, it's clear that she does in fact have a good heart, being very genuinely hurt when she reads her fiancé's mind and learns that he thinks she's promiscuous, even if their relationship is pretty clearly not a very healthy one, as we'll see later in the series. But make no mistake, Kelly is definitely one of the badasses of the series, not only standing up to the probation worker when he starts getting violent with her, inciting him to try and kill her later, but while running from him, going out of her way to try and warn the rest of the group that there's a murderer on the loose, even though she doesn't like most of them. And even as the one that ends up finally putting the probation worker down for the count. All around, Kelly's kind of a badass, and only gets better as the series goes on, even if occasionally getting sidelined to provide character development for other people. There's some really good character development that gets into more detail about what Kelly is like as a person in the second episode, so I'll hold off on going much more in detail until then. But now it's time to talk about the antagonist of the piece. Nathan Stewart Jared, that's a name and a half, does an amazing job with his portrayal of the character, Curtis Donovan. It's very clear from Curtis's opening dialogue that he does intensely want to help people, as difficult as that can be, despite their own attempts to be as disrespectful and irritating as humanly possible. But it also becomes equally clear that he probably has some anger issues, not helped by the hailstorm destroying his new car, or the group yelling at him to open the door faster to let them into the community center while the hailstorm's going on, and being pretty antagonistic earlier in the day. So it's not surprising that he ends up developing some very pronounced rage issues as a result of the storm, since it's pretty clear that the storm gives you superpowers based on very strong aspects of your personality. After the storm, it starts ramping up, first leaving a threat for the group, graffitied on a wall that they later have to clean off, then confiscating their phones for the day after becoming annoyed by their antics, providing a convenient excuse for why they don't call the police when everything starts going sideways. And before all of that, giving us a new take on the comic book staple of women in refrigerators, toxic masculinity in a locker. This is one of the other youth offenders that was basically written in to die off. His main crime was he was written to be an unlikable jerk throughout, so nothing of value was lost. Both his death and Curtis's death throughout the series provide a good bit of tension, with the ever-present threat of their bodies being discovered under the overpass where they're buried, even having their deaths be a central plot point in several episodes, not helped by the fact that the new probation worker is Curtis's fiancée. Seriously, out of the frying pan and into the fire on that one. And I love how they depict his super rage with these ghostly pale eyes. Rather than having him see red, it's almost as if he's completely checked out from reality and can't even see how violent he's become and what he's doing to everyone around him. Finally, my favorite conceit of the entire series is the fact that the entire group realized that revealing their superpowers would be more of a hassle and would only make things more complicated. So go out of their way to try and keep as much of this a secret, less because they're afraid of their family and friends getting hurt, and more because they're remarkably selfish individuals. So, as a first episode, I think it's pretty much perfect. The only thing I would maybe change would be give Chris a little bit more of an interesting power as the primary antagonist for our first episode. Especially as you go through the series, they have some really creative ones, so Super Rage is a little blah, but I guess it does the job of getting you invested in the series from the get-go. So pretty good. So that's my review of the first episode. It's just my opinion, so if you disagree, no harm, no foul. But above all, I hope you found it educational, informative, and hopefully entertaining. And before I leave you, I would just ask that every day you try and share something you love with someone you care about. Till next time, friends.